The movie came out in 1975, and I think it's one of the greatest films of all time. It might be my favorite movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm talking about Jaws. Jaws is one of those movies where it completely changed the landscape of cinema and the way that we see action adventure movies and horror movies. Like, even to this day, movies that are out today, I still believe draw inspiration from the types of scenes that were included in the feature-length film of Jaws, which was based off the book by Peter Benchley. There's some differences between the movie and the book. Like, for instance, the ending is completely different in the book than the actual film itself. For people that aren't going to read the book, even though it's a pretty old book, but it's a pretty good book too. The ending has, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the ending in the book, the main characters, who are really the three main characters, you have Quint, Brody, and the scientist Hooper. You have the three characters, Chief Brody, Quint, and Hooper. And in the book, that's not necessarily the ending to the film, which I may not spoil because it's a 50-year-old film, and a lot of people have seen it. But people that haven't seen it, I really do encourage you to watch the film because it's such a good movie, and you're going to notice things that you'll see in, like, an action-adventure movie that you saw recently, or even a horror movie that you've seen recently. And also a cool thing to note, the composer for the movie is John Williams, aka the guy that did the Star Wars themes. He did Harry Potter. He did... I want to say he did Indiana Jones, maybe even Superman. Everybody knows who John Williams is. He did all those iconic film soundtracks, which is really cool. So the film opens up in the most ominous and memorable way possible. You got to keep in mind, too, this is 1975, so we're not talking about movies that were out at the time that were similar or had similarities to something like Terrifier or Terrifier, one of those movies. Horror movies didn't really have that many, like, gory stuff occurring at the time until around about 1979, 78, 79, when Halloween came out. That's when the genre started to shift a little bit more towards that sort of grindhouse, gonzo, mainstream kind of way. This is a Universal production, to keep in mind too. This is before Scarface. It's about 8 years before Scarface, so the violence that is shown in the movie is very sudden and abrupt, and almost few and far between, but when it does occur, it is very brutal. So it opens up, and it's a nice little camp out on a summer's eve, I believe, in late June, I want to say. And there's people around a campfire. People are drinking and smoking cigarettes because it was a cool thing to do back in the day. Nowadays, it would be someone drinking a White Claw with a Zen in their upper lip. Something to that effect, probably. If there's a modern-day Jaws remake, which I think there is, and I think it's called Megalodon with Jason Statham. Very interesting. And one of the people camping out, Christy, lures a guy to run to the ocean with her, of course, because that's how it always goes. I know whenever I'm partying somewhere and I'm half-cocked, a girl is always trying to get me to sprint with her into open water. And, it turns out fine with me every single time. So they go out into this beach, and just the intro alone, just the visual nature of this film, it's a great looking film. Like, you get to see the setting of a beach. Like, who doesn't want to see the setting of a beach? Just like the landscape of the beach, the night sky, all the things that you could imagine on a beach. You got water and sand. So they go out into the water. Well, one of them goes out into the water. Christy goes out into the water, and the dude just kind of passes out on the beach, and she's out in the water, and she's swimming around, and then the music kind of kicks in. Music kicks in, so something's about to happen. One thing I want to say about this soundtrack as well is that it's an orchestra. So really what that means is, like, throughout the film, you'll be able to kind of follow the notes of the orchestra, like not note for note, but the bullet points of the orchestra kind of display what's happening in the film. It's one of those films soundtracks where you can listen to the soundtrack on its own and kind of gather what the story, where it's at in the story, if you have a good ear for that. And then before you know it, Chrissy gets pulled under. She gets pulled under by something. You don't necessarily know what it is. You're guessing that it's a shark, but you don't see the shark, like, at all. You don't know what this thing is. Again, horror movies do this today. Halloween, you didn't know what Michael Myers looked like, at all. You didn't even see, like, his mask self. You would see him driving around, walking around, but you wouldn't see him until later in the film, and, like, actually get to see him until, like, the end of the film, which is crazy to think that the entire movie has you riding on this thing that you don't know what it is. You have an idea of what it is, but they don't show it to you, like, at all for, like, a good hour or so in this movie. An hour, like, half the movie, you don't see the shark, the thing, the bad protagonist. So Chrissy gets pulled under, she gets munched on, and she gets utterly destroyed. A cool note about that scene, she was actually on, like, a bicycle seat, and there were two people, like, on each end of her. She was in the middle on a bicycle seat, and there was a rope attached to it, and there were people pulling the rope very vigorously to like, create that violent shaking effect. Apparently it was very painful. Yeah, tragic. I would not want to be on that thing. I don't know, that might be a modern ride at, like, Universal. I wonder if that's a ride at Universal Studios. And then, of course, the next course of the movie, the next day after that occurs, you get to see the main character, or the main protagonist, played by Roy Schneider, who is the Punisher's dad from the 2004 film, The Punisher. Roy Schneider is Thomas Jane's, or the Punisher's dad, in that movie, to kind of give some type of relevancy. I know that movie's 20 years old, but he was in that movie just to give context, to, like, grasp something if you haven't seen Jaws and you want to know if you've seen some of these characters in other movies, since it's an old movie by today's standards. 50 years it's a long time. There's probably not that many people that you would know just by watching the movie for the first time. But he was in The Punisher. So he was also in 2002 A Space Odyssey, not 2002, 2010 A Space Odyssey, or the second Space Odyssey, the sequel to 2001 A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. He was in that as well. And I think he was in a movie about jazz. There's a movie called Something Jazz. He was also in that. He's a stage performer. He's a really great performance actor. And they just moved, him and his family just moved to Coney Island. Not Coney Island, I just made a Warriors video. That's a joke. They moved to Amity Island, which is in, I don't even know. I couldn't tell you. I would have to put a post edit of where they're at in Amity Island. Chief Brody is his name. And it's one of his, he just moved there. It's like his first day as the town sheriff or something to that effect. And he has to have a meeting with the mayor of the town. And right off the bat, there's, like, some character building moments. He has a family and such. But at one point, he has to drive, or he has to see what they got the phone call of, like, they found a body on the beach, so they have to investigate what happened. They identify the body. The guy's there trying to tell his story about what happened, and Chief Brody immediately thinks in a rational way. He's like, somebody got torn up into pieces, nothing but their arms and limbs are severed. We definitely need to close the beach because this is disastrous. It's not like somebody got scraped by something. I was gonna make a really inappropriate joke about a stingray, but and it reminded me of the Crocodile Hunter, so I'm not gonna make that joke. and he wants to close the beach. So he talks to the mayor, and the mayor immediately shuts it down. What a guy. That guy was also in a lot of other old movies that I'm not even going to talk about because most of the people probably haven't seen the movies that he's been in. But he's got a very iconic kind of voice. He's got that almost Flying Dutchman kind of voice. He's not the Flying Dutchman. I don't think he is. He's definitely not. I don't think it's the same guy, but he has that. It's the timbre of the voice. And they not only does Chief Brody get shut down by the mayor, but like the other like officials of the city are like, yes, this would be a bad idea to shut down the beach. It could have been a boat propeller. Yes, of course. I think that's exactly what it was. We know it wasn't. We know it wasn't a boat propeller. I mean, everyone saw it. What are these people thinking? So they go about it, and they keep the beaches opened, and it's just kind of a myth at this point. The only people that really know are the mayor and Chief Brody know that really it was a shark attack. But they're going to keep playing along like it was a boat propeller, it was an accident, and, you know, let lying dogs lie. Sweep it under the rug, in a way, to a degree. So they keep the beaches open, and they go about their normal days. The Chief Brody is there. It's kind of like a lifeguard looking out. He's really paranoid at this point, too, which is like the tension starts to build up again. Like something is around the corner. Like you can just feel the tension in the air. You got people playing on the beach. You got this guy playing with his dog. The first time I saw this movie, I'm not going to lie, I wanted to stop watching the movie because how upset I got when the dog was lost. The dog was lost. And people were swimming and bashing around, so you really can't tell anything. But then the camera pans underwater, and you start to hear that build-up of that classic Jaws theme, where, again, they don't really, like, that's how you know, it's almost like the music is like the shark itself. Like, you can hear the build-up of, like, it's kind of, being a predator, it's kind of like, stalking. It's got like a stalking kind of sound, very eerie sounding. And then it has like a rising sound, and then something happens. And then you see it. You see for like a split second, like the fin like turns over, and then there's a lot of blood and such. Someone's, you know, kids getting massacred by a shark, which again, for a movie made in 1979 that was rated PG, where a kid is getting torn up by a shark, is pretty insane to think about. Even for the time, even like today, I mean, they're rated PG, okay? This movie was rated PG. This is before ratings were like really hammered home as, you know, what is like appropriate for you know, the general audience and such. So now there's an actual definite attack. There's a lot of funny moments too on the beach, like the old man talking to Brody. I was laughing pretty good last time I watched that movie. Seeing the old guy talk to Brody, and he's just like, I don't know how to describe it, but he's so on edge that he does not have time for this old man talking to him. He's having his ear talked off for no reason. Oh, and then the iconic shot of like the zoom in. You see this in I think they showed it in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for modern people that like to watch movies. That zoom in on Brody's face, like where the camera zooms in, or watch my hand. It does that to his face. That's some scary stuff. That's like rising kind of feeling. It's solidified in the cinema world where every movie has that zoom in shot. It's super simple to do, but it was very effective. It let you know like some stuff is going down. So kid gets eaten, and now they know for sure that, you know, it was a shark attack, and now they have to have a meeting. They have this meeting where you're introduced to the second main character, Quint. They're talking in this meeting about hiring someone. It's really a shit fest of everyone screaming over each other. It's kind of like an Always Sunny episode, I swear. Everyone's interactions are, everyone's yelling over each other. We need to hire this. We got to close the beach. We got to, what are you going to do? We can't do this. 4th of July is right around the corner. Super. And then you get the classic nails on a chalkboard. This fucking guy. We ain't going to be easy.
It ain't going to be easy.
Fat as fish. You catch them and kill them. Like 10. This guy makes eating crackers so enthralling. Like, I want some Ritz crackers now after watching that scene. So they think about it. They don't hire him just yet. Or they don't hire him. They ended up getting a scientist to come in to like study the waters to find out what it is. And now everyone's on the hunt for this shark. There's a shark out there, and people are getting on their boats, bringing dynamite, rifles, and all sorts of stuff to find the shark. To find this shark. And then finally, you see the third main character, Hooper. He finally shows up to the island. He's from the International Institute of Bio. He's a marine biologist, essentially, but for sharks. And he meets Brody and tells him kind of what's going on and such. And a lot of funny moments. Hooper really is like the comic relief in the movie, and it's very Steven Spielbergish. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this movie's by Steven Spielberg.
Well, then, can you tell me if there's a good restaurant or hotel on the island?
You walk straight ahead.
They're all gonna die.
And they end up catching a shark. Very happy that a shark was in fact caught. Everyone's applauding and such. Hooper's taking a look at it, inspecting it. They're wondering what kind of shark it is. But during that fun, it's almost like this is where like some of the greatness of this movie, why I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time. You actually are like excited that they caught the shark and everyone's having fun. And then before you know it, the kid's mother reminds Brody and the audience that, yeah, her kid was eaten alive by this shark, by a shark. And immediately after that, we even get more bombshell news. Hooper identifies the shark as potentially not being the shark that killed the kid or Christy. And of course the mayor's like, we're not going to cut open the shark right here because this, that, and the other. You know, very logical. He has an actual logical response for once in this entire movie. Hooper and Chief Brody, they go and inspect the shark. They cut it open to see what the shark had eaten recently. They find a couple things, but they did not find the body of either of the victims. Once they found out that the tiger shark was not the shark that killed the victims, they wanted to go out into the water. Another comedic moment.
And there's any truth to territoriality at all, we've got a good chance of spotting him between Cape Scott and South Beach.
Where you going?
We've got to find him right now. He's a night feeder.
On the water?
Well, if we're looking for a shark, we're not going to find him on the land.
Yeah, but I'm not drunk enough to go out in a boat.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I can't do that.
Yes, you can.
And another character point, too. It shows that Brody is definitely afraid of the water for some reason. Perhaps he was... And it's always insinuated in the movie. They don't outright say it, but they kind of imply that he was attacked by a shark in his youth or at some point in his life that kind of has him afraid of the water and of sharks. So that's like his redemption story. Like he has like a redemption arc for that, which is very, very interesting. I'm glad they don't really outright say it. So they're traveling these waters, and I'm telling you, the music by this point is just so enthralling to me. It just really is. I don't know what to say. They found something in the waters where they suspected the shark to be at last. Hooper goes in, they dive in, he finds a tooth. He surmised that it definitely was a great white. The shark is definitely out there. There's no reason why beaches should still be open. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. So they try to tell the mayor, and the mayor's not having it. Of course the mayor's not having it, because July 4th is right around the corner, so it's their biggest day of the year. So what do? They keep the beaches open. And do you want to know what happens? Of course, not only does the shark appear, but it almost attacked Chief Brody's own son. So, and this is the first time you actually get to see, like, the shark itself. And again, for 1975, I don't care who you are, watching that movie, seeing that scene, the way that it's, that shot, that scene is insane. Like, even today, like, I don't care if people say, oh, the shark's fake, it's clearly fake, this, that, and the other. That's a terrifying shot of sideways and then getting drug under and your leg bitten off is just, that's just great. So now that we have a shark attack on the 4th of July, the mayor is in shambles and Brody is not having it. He said, he's telling him, you gotta hire Quint. You gotta get this guy Quint. Get him on a boat, hunt the shark. So we finally get to meet Quint. He is a shark hunter. You can tell by the jaws of sharks in his actual fishing cabin. I guess it's a fishing cabin. I don't really know what it is, but I guess it's a fishing cabin. He makes his own moonshine, so that's cool. You can see the interesting character dynamics between the three characters. Quint doesn't really like Hooper. Quint's kind of goes off the rails at some point. Brody's kind of like right in the middle, kind of neutral to the whole thing. And they finally get on the boat, the Orca. There's an establishing shot that kind of lets you know that the rest of the movie is going to be taking place in the water, which, again, for cinema, it's so cool. It's one of the reasons why it's the greatest film of all time, if not one of. Top 10 for me, for sure. And I've seen a lot of movies. So they go out into the water, and this is where the adventure really kind of begins. The whole movie's like, at this point, builds up like tension. There's a little bit of horror aspects, but the actual adventure is second to none in the second half. The second half's like 40 minutes, give or take, but it's some of the most enthralling 40 minutes like ever. They're out into the sea, and they are chumming the waters. You get the classic lines, the improv line as well. He improvised you're going to need a bigger boat. And we actually get to see the shark for the first time. There was like a false reading on them thinking that they hooked the shark, but they don't know what they hooked. They thought maybe they hooked a stingray. But then when you see the shark, and the music builds up into this sort of adventurous type music. And that's how you know, like, the real movie has just begun. Like, this is it. And they think they have like a strategy on catching the shark. They're gonna shoot the shark with these barrels, and these barrels are gonna pull the shark up to water, and they're going to kind of keep the shark afloat and then drag it to shore. That's essentially what it is. Like, the barrels are gonna be like so flotacious that the shark cannot like pull down under the barrels, and that's how they're gonna catch the shark. So they get one barrel on him, and according to Quint, that happens. One barrel, and he goes under the water. It's fine because there's like 4 or 5 other barrels. He didn't get the shot off that he wanted. He wanted to shoot him in like the head, but he ended up shooting him in the fin. Despite that, they got the barrel on him. They kind of wait around until they see the shark again. So they wait in the cabin, and then you get to hear one of the greatest monologues in cinema history, and one of the greatest songs in cinema history as well. And then before you know it, when they're mucking about having fun, they get a knock on the door, to put it lightly, and now they're back on it, and Brody's got a gun, starts shooting the shark like it's gonna do something. It might. I mean, give it a shot. Give it 6 of them. And Quint hooks up a barrel. They get the second barrel in them, but then it goes right back down under. No worries, there's a few more barrels left. But by this point, you should know this is kind of like the tipping point for the movie. Like, they weren't expecting this, and there's really nowhere to go but down. No pun intended. So they're waiting a bit. They got to fix the boat. The boat got kind of destroyed. So they try to fix the boat the best they can. And then the shark appears again. Quint's so confident that the shark is not going to go under with 3 barrels on him. Shark goes under. Now what? Now they're trying to go to shore. They're changing their plans, so they say, of taking the shark to shore and drowning it in the shallow waters. Quint kind of loses his mind. Blows up the ship pretty much. The boat overheats it. And now what? Now it's Hooper's turn. He brought some equipment. He's going to try to catch the shark, and going to try to knock it out. So they get Hooper under the water, and the tension is palpable, really. And then before you know it, there is an attack, of course. He's fighting him. He's trying to fight him with the diver's knife. And then, I mean, of course, he drops the dart. He drops the shark dart, and he has to swim away. He has to get out of the cage. They actually used real footage of a shark that they filmed in Australia from some of their crew members, which is pretty cool. Little backstory on that. Why is it a real shark? It's because it's real footage from Australia back in the day. So they see that Hooper's definitely in some trouble, and then they pull up the actual shark cage to see what's going on. And this is where you get probably the most iconic shot in film history. And all this build-up to Quint's character and the monologue and him not wearing a life jacket is it's pretty good. Now I guess it's up to the main character, the guy that doesn't want to be on a boat and hates the water and sharks probably. It's all up to him. So it's all up to Brody. He grabs this rifle, climbs on the highest point of this sinking ship or boat, and of course the shark is trying to eat him. The shark is kind of no holds bars, and somehow the shark is like the shark swims away and says, you know what, I'm going to go full force, like, as hard as possible. Like, he swims all the way back and is going to, like, torpedo right into him. And this is it. This is it for him. Brody's got one shot. Well, he's got like 5 shots. And then you know, you get the line. And then you get to see the shark just die and decay. And it's pretty much over. And what's really interesting too is that you can see the island in the background. Like they were this close to making it to the island. In one piece, rather. And then out of nowhere, Hooper shows up. He was hiding behind a rock the whole time. They construct this little flotation device, and they swim back to shore on a Wednesday. Tuesday, I think. That's the end of the movie. It's the greatest movie of all time. One of them. Definitely my top 10, I would say, probably. So many great things that happen. It's a movie that is... If you haven't seen it, you really need to see it. Everyone needs to see that movie. People say there are certain movies that you need to see in your life, like, I don't know, Star Wars or something. I'm not really a big Star Wars guy. I mean, it's okay, but there are better movies out there. But Jaws is definitely one of them. That would be the equivalent of Piranha 3D. No, but it's, yeah, the soundtrack is amazing. The pacing of the movie is amazing. Like I said, movies today that have action adventure like attached to the movie as like a genre of movie, of that particular movie, probably drew some inspiration from that work in Jaws. Same with the horror as well. Like a lot of the elements are shown in the movie Jaws. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I'm pretty sure you can find it on like any streaming platform. It's a good movie. Just check it out if you want. It's a pretty good movie. It's an okay movie. I mean, it is a great movie. No, it's a good, I mean, it's a good, solid movie. It's okay.